What's going on, guys? Welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan, as always. I do hope you're doing well, I really do hope that, though it's probably tricky right now, having lost to Arsenal in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. And in today's Chelsea news video, we'll be touching on some of the stuff there. There's an article on The Athletic analysing Chelsea's transfer window and what they're doing in the future. Simon Johnson's published this, we'll get into that. I do want to pick apart a few talking points as well, man. Because there's been obviously I had an instant match reaction after that loss to Arsenal, and I gave my thoughts that remain the same. But I found it fascinating how diverse the opinions have been, the takes from that game, Chelsea's approach, Rosenior, Paul Merson's sort of like how flabbergasted he was, how some Chelsea fans are disgusted, how some are really proud. It's fascinating how completely different the opinion is and the fallout has been from that game. Of course, Rosenior has joined Chelsea. He's had very little time with the boys. He's lost 2 games, and they were both to Arsenal, who, I hate to say it, are, the best team around at the moment. They might not be the best on the eye, but they're top of the Premier League, the best league in the world. They're top of the Champions League table with an immaculate 100% record for a reason. They were playing Chelsea at home. We had some absentees, and they were ahead in the tie. Do you know what I mean? So we'll get into that a little bit, but I want to speak about the tactics, the fallout in the media, the medical team conspiracy, which will bleed into the whole Reece James captain, of course, a huge miss on the night, and Pedro Neto. We can talk a little bit about Delap, Jackson, do we miss Jackson? Is Delap a mistake? Things like Alejandro Garnacho, perhaps attackers, the form of Cole Palmer, the reliance of an 18-year-old attacker that's only, recently joined Europe from a Brazilian league, and all that in between. So it's going to be a juicy video / podcast, depending on how you consume it, which is the perfect opportunity to thank all of you who have supported the content by dropping a like on the content. You can do that now if you want to take a split second of your time and help your boy out. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Should you choose to subscribe to Football Therapy, you should hit that sweet, sweet bell. Me. Sweet, sweet bell, baby. Yeah. You gotta have fun, because if you don't, what's the ruddy point, mate? Do you know what I mean? Yes, for those of you who want video, you can watch on Spotify, Football Therapy Podcast. Go give us a follow and a 5-star. Maybe on Apple Pods as well, for those of you who use Apple Podcasts. 5-star rating, that will be good. Now, look, we'll start with the fallout, and then we'll do this January window, targets, transfers, squad builds, because the squad build is hella big topic among all the believers, the non-believers, and everything in between. I think what's clear that everyone can join hands with and say, certain opposition have more squads. Like, Arsenal have a better squad to deal. Not only have Arsenal been drilled under Arteta for 6 or 7 years, or however long it is now, they've learned over years and years what they're missing. I'll put that guy in. They're drilled, and they bought all these extra players to come in to cover who aren't children. And the defenders of the Chelsea regime, or the sporting directors, will say, yeah, these kids will eventually grow up. They're not all going to be sold. The team will inherently get better and more experienced and closer to that Arsenal, but we want to win now, or whatever. That's what they'll tell you. So let's talk about the fallout then. So you got Paul Merson and, what's his face? Jamie Redknapp and stuff criticising the way Rosenior approached the game. You've got people like, I think, Toomey of The Athletic, Nizar Kinsella of the BBC said he thinks it was Chelsea's best performance under Liam Rosenior since he's arrived, that performance away in the Emirates, which might, I don't know, get some people's backs up a little bit. I kind of lie somewhere in between. I think it was the absolutely correct way to approach it. Rosenior was right to come out and defend himself after Merson's comments afterwards and say, look, if I go gung-ho and go 2 goals down because we're so open and the tie is just away from us. Remember, they're at home as well. You need to understand, it's not just about containing Arsenal. I think Rosenior said it as much as himself. It's a psychological thing as well. You're away from home. The mood's up at the Emirates at Arsenal. But also, that stadium has the capacity to get twitchy and nervy and on edge. It has the capacity to do that. We've seen it. When we've seen it, cost Arsenal, they can sense, Arteta's spoken about it, the players have spoken about it, they can feel the nerves. So to play in a way where Arsenal knew they didn't need to score, but just couldn't get a whiff. And I agree, I know what the Chelsea manager's going to say this, but I agree with him. To be honest, he's been pretty... some of the comments he's come out with, like, I would have booed us too, that was nowhere near good enough, we're Chelsea, we have to win. He said you felt in the stadium something could happen here, and I felt that as well. A lot of people might have said, oh, sideways passes, and true, our shot value wasn't high, but we still trebled the amount of shots they had. We had higher field tilt, we had more possession. Yes, they didn't need to play, but there was clips of like Mikel Arteta on the touchline thinking, oh god, what do we do here, what do we do? Like, they didn't know what to do. Obviously, it rolled out in the end. Havertz scores. It's unpalatable for Chelsea fans, tapping the Arsenal badge and all that. But it's inconsequential at that point because obviously, it was the dying seconds anyway. We just weren't going to score. It's just a negative like thing on it. But they had no response to Rosenior's plan, and Rosenior's plan was to play in a way where we stay in the tie for as long as possible, make the Emirates twitchy, like, oh, we're not going to win this game, which they were for. They just needed to draw it, but that worked. And then you bring on your stars, your Cole Palmer, your Stevao Williams, against tired Arsenal legs that are getting a bit twitchy. And if they cook, you score. I felt we go on to win because that would have played against that fragility of the mentality of the Emirates Stadium. So football's a game of opinions. And mine is that was absolutely the correct thing to do. Did it work? No. So therefore, if I could go back in time, would I try the gung-ho? Yeah. But we might lose 2 or 3-0, and imagine the fallout then. They'll be like, Rosenier's a complete naive fraud to go there and do that. So, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, if I could roll the dice again with different tactics, obviously I would as a Chelsea fan, but for like going in once and not knowing, for me personally, that was the right thing to do. And of course, the analysis is if Cole Palmer's fully fit and cooking. I mean, he starts that game, obviously. But it's still always good to bring a bit of dynamite off the bench, like a Stevao. It should be just an Stevao and another attacker, and Cole Palmer starts. And Reece James, if he was fit, probably starts, which probably is a good opportunity to talk about this like medical team conspiracy. That there's this like evil group of men that are trying to deliberately make the manager's life hard just to make Chelsea fans miserable. When really, the reality is, Chelsea have had seasons of injury crises where the likes of Wesley Fofana literally didn't play any football. There was 2 seasons where Reece James was done for, and all the briefs were he's being told by consultants to leave the Premier League to go to Spanish and Portuguese climates to play in their leagues for his hamstrings. And everyone was like, well, Reece James will never see him properly again. Touch wood, we've seemingly overcome that with those guys, and I'm praying they can do the same with Romeo Lavia. And they're not a bunch. It's not like the sporting directors swinging their so-and-sos around going, we're the better, we can rightly criticise the sporting directors, look at them and say, are you truly qualified to be running this, operation that's a bit ambitious, a bit arrogant? Are you qualified to do that? And I understand why a lot of fans criticise that. Presumably, this medical team is a proper medical team that are assessing the players and go, right, how can we protect these guys the best they can so we don't go into recurring injury crisis? I don't buy into this like, oh, there's this group of evil people that are just out to upset the Chelsea fans and they're all part of this like blue code, demonic, sad nightmare story to make us all sad. No, it's a specialist team of medical people that are doing what they think is the best to protect Chelsea players. As unsexy and unpopular as that is to say. Look, of course there was a time where Wenger's, Ferguson's and Mourinho's would make players play for injury, give them injections. Probably not the best thing in the world in reality, but that's where we are. So probably, again, for that game, the way Liam Rosenior was speaking, he wasn't granted the ability to play Reece James and Pedro Neto. he would have loved to, especially watching Garnacho's performance recently. He didn't play with any wingers. You know, he didn't have the wingers. Gittins was unavailable. Neto was unavailable. Stevo's literally just got back from Brazil after compassionate leave. I was shocked to see he was even going to feature in that game. And the only natural winger is Garnacho, which Liam Twomey highlighted on the Straight Out of Common podcast, put in the worst 45 minutes of his Chelsea career last game. And do you want to put him up against Jurgen Timber and trust a defensive 60-minute game plan? Absolutely not. The plan would have been, and I know this is not popular to say this, the plan would have been have one of your most important players, your captain, Chelsea through and through, available for the Arsenal game. He came on to do a few minutes against West Ham, and clearly they say he had a knock and they didn't want to risk it. If he starts at Wolves and he plays 90 minutes and he flies up and down the pitch, Chelsea fans will ask questions, of course. But if he plays a bit, reservedly, plays 60 minutes at Wolves because it's important to get in the Champions League, I don't buy into this, we weren't taking this seriously. And they're saying, yeah, you can't have Neto, you can't have James, do what you can. I just don't buy into that. And maybe that is the truth and we'll learn there's this evil regime towards the end. But personally, I think I kind of have sympathy for Rosenior. I think he did the best with what he had, and I think he had the right game plan tactically. I think he had the right game plan psychologically to try and get into the heads of the fans in the stadium. And, 15 shots to only 2 on target. There's your problem. And we have to, I know it's not nice, but Arsenal were completely locked in defensively. Now and again, in the first leg, they had a couple of brain farts which served us, which gave us a little ray of hope. Garnacho, rare finishes, a couple of goals, and they missed a bunch of chances, which helped us. It was lost in the first leg. Rosenior has lost 2 games, and it's against the best team in the Premier League, while he'd had, in the first leg, a flu all throughout the squad. Loads of players were either out with flu or playing with it, like Enzo Fernandez. And of course, we know the details of yesterday. So let's move on from that game. But I just found it fascinating how he was either like, oh, what an amazing approach from Chelsea, nearly perfect, to they're a disgrace. I can't believe they've done that. So it's just the polar opposites have people. I mean, I've obviously been quite central with it, but I thought it was fascinating. Right then, let's talk about the players we have. And then we'll speak about this article from The Athletic. So lots of talking points have come out. Look, Cole Palmer's a big, huge talking point. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. He's clearly out of fitness and form. I think a lot of his demeanour, he looks annoyed because he's just not, he's not party time anymore. Palmer was king of the world. Not just in that first season under Pochettino, but at the end of Maresca's first season in the Club World Cup and the Conference League. And he did struggle in the Maresca. People forget. People are sort of romanticising about, Maresca like he was Tuchel when Tuchel left. Maresca won 1 out of 8 Premier League games and was, lining up his next job. Do you know what I mean? And he never really connected with the fans too much. They sang his name twice, where Liam's already getting his name sung. I'm not suggesting, he has to win trophies before truly winning the affection, in my opinion. But, the sort of revisionism is profound. So Cole had a tough time under Maresca for a long time and sort of found a bit of form at the end. Look, he's never going to enjoy chaos ball under Pochettino, where everything's mad and he's just going to find loads of space in between and will concede loads of goals, but he'll get loads of goal involvements. That's not going to happen again. But he can do what he did to PSG in some games, and when he's back on song. He's not at the moment. There's not really much more to say about Cole Palmer. If he needs groin surgery, he's going to try and wait out to see if he can make the World Cup squad. We'll find out the details. I'm hoping, like João Pedro's just exploded under Rosenior. Even in that first half, he did some amazing centre-forward play that he's being praised for across footballing media, like the hold-up play and some of the, the way he was taking Saliba for a walk. He got really inside Saliba's head. He didn't know what to do with João Pedro. I think certain players will do really well under Rosenior. I'm hoping he finds a way to sort of re-spark the flame in Cole Palmer, because that will be one of his major things, In the same way when Pochettino arrived, they said to him, fix Mudryk. Do you know what I mean? And he wasn't able to do it. In the same way of Rosenior arriving, they'll be like, fix Palmer. Fix every time it's fix our number 10. Mudryk was the number 10 at the time. Now it's Palmer. fix our number 10, get his confidence back. So, you know, we can. He's an amazing player. He'll be good again. It's just when with Cole. Right, let's talk about Liam Delap. He has been targeted with the fury of many people. Some of my mates I speak to, lots of people on social media. I will basically... But there's no escaping he's been underwhelming. He's been unfortunate because of injury. He's been unfortunate. I say he's not unfortunate because this is the way. At Ipswich, they played into his hands, into his style. It's almost like Mudryk at Shakhtar, speaking of the aforementioned Mudryk, how he could shine in a certain system, and then you bring him to Chelsea and be like, do other stuff really well. But I do think he's still profiled to be a really high-performing striker in a really difficult landscape. I do think that about Delap. And do you know what tells you that? Because loads of massive teams were fighting over him. You know, Newcastle were willing to pay the 30 million buyout clause. Man United were willing to pay it. Bayern Munich were like, yeah, we'll pay it. Yeah, you bring him here. Excuse me. So they were all willing to do it, but he decided to come to Chelsea. Of course, he'd played under Maresca. You could see the project at Chelsea in terms of lots of young players around you developing. You could be in a dynasty or whatever sort of thing. So it was a good signing. He is Chelsea's number 9. I mean, probably because it was just vacant and he was like, yeah, I'll have it. But it is raising the question about, Nico Jackson. Incidentally, Nico Jackson absolutely would have done a better job than Delap yesterday. You could argue about who's your favourite style of striker. They're actually quite similar in a lot of ways when they're both playing well. But Jackson used to be a winger, like a proper winger. I know Delap played out wide a lot of the time for Rosenior at Hull, so that was like, oh, that would be interesting. Spoiler, it wasn't. But it was literally this case of, can you be a placeholder, try and beat up the Arsenal defence for an hour until Esteval comes on. Sort of did that, but Esteval just, he didn't do any more, but then that was his remit. And I feel bad because he's not playing down the middle and having all these chances fed to him and score some goals and have some glory. I mean, really, it's just that goal against Barcelona that's his highlight in his Chelsea career at the moment. And even that was against 10-man Barcelona, against a side that was quite open and accommodating. Look, even for me, who's quite a Delap sympathiser, who I think like he's a good player. I think he'll be an excellent player. No, that's a bit too much. He's a good player. I think he'll be a great player. I don't know if he'll ever be good enough to be Chelsea's proper number 9. But I do think, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I think he'll be England's number 9. Which probably says more about the roster about England at the moment at number 9s with your Watkins and your Solankis getting older and Kane being in his 30s. So, if you said England's number 9 is Chelsea's number 9, as an England fan, I'd be quite excited about that. But yeah, I'm concerned. Fortunately, Joao Pedro looks very good at the moment. Yeah, and the situation with Jackson's fascinating because in that game, because he used to be a winger, he would have done so much more. And Arsenal would have had to think about Jackson a lot more. We will address that in the summer, and of course the transfer story is coming up in just a moment. I'm just going to quickly go through I've written some notes here. I've already done the Reece James. He wasn't dropped. He was protected because, a lot of Rosenior was going, why have you dropped Reece James? He didn't drop Reece James. If Reece James was afforded to him, he plays him, basically. If he passes the fitness test. I also wrote in my notes here, reliance of 18-year-old Esteban Willian, but maybe we don't need to go into that. He's still an amazing talent, and we've probably used him. I wouldn't say we've overused him. Some people might say we've underused him. I think we're probably doing it in the sweet spot, so I won't say that much. Let's just end on Garnacho then, because I have him in my notes. Yeah, I mean, Gittins, Seb Stafford-Bloor, German football expert who covers German football for The Athletic, so waxes lyrical, speaks so highly of Jamie Gittins and thinks he's such an exciting signing for Chelsea. Chelsea want, wingers that can take their man on and do exciting stuff and have a high ceiling. They absolutely see Jamie Gittins as one of those guys. He's been playing for the England under-21s. He's still a kid. He's got over 100 appearances for Dortmund, which is, no mean feat at that age when we signed him as a 20-year-old or whatever. And he's, of course, won a Man of the Match award in the Champions League for both Dortmund and Chelsea. Like, for a young man, he's got potential, but he's a lot like Alejandro Garnacho in they're differently profiled, they're very raw, and they've underwhelmed for different reasons. I think Gittins, because he's not been given a fair crack and we're not playing to his style. And I think Garnacho, because he's just been poor. I think he can be all right, by the way. I don't think he can be amazing. But I think Garnacho is just a player with a relatively high ceiling, which Chelsea see, wow, 40 million, bang, bang, we'll get that. But quite a low floor, a very low floor, which can really cost you in games. Where Gittins is just profiled as an exciting young player that can really serve a purpose. So they really wanted him. But it leaves you looking at the right wing. I know Neto's caught loads of heat from Chelsea fans. I think really unfairly. I think we would have done so much better with Neto in the side against Arsenal. Neto, Steval, Palmer, all on the right-hand side. I think we're fine. It's the left-hand side. We don't have this banker. I'm not going to spend a lot of time digging out Garnacho. It was a market opportunity signing, which this will make you think. I think if we put Garnacho up for sale in the summer and say he agreed to just go, say, look, man, do you want to go somewhere else where you might play better? Say, do you want to go to La Liga and play for a good team up there? You would do lots of better. We've just analysed your game. And then he goes, yeah, all right, off I go. I think we'll make our money back comfortably because he's just the kind of player teams profile highly and pay a lot of money for. Yeah, because I think he just wanted to come to Chelsea in the summer. Fascinating. Right, so Simon Johnson of The Athletics wrote a piece. I realise it's going to be possibly slightly longer. We'll see. We're at 21 minutes now. I don't think we'll go to half an hour. Simon Johnson analyses Chelsea's transfer window and writes a little bit more. So we'll put a bow around this winter transfer window now on the 4th of February. Was the window a success or a failure? Neither. You can go back to the first transfer deal sheet about Chelsea previewing this window. It was expected to be pretty quiet unless the right opportunity came up as far as new signings presented themselves. Chelsea have earmarked strengthening a centre-back, midfield and attack for 2026, and this still is the case, but of course it will be in the summer as was kind of planned to begin with. However, fans will question why their pursuit of Jeremy Jacquet ended with him opting to join Liverpool. More on that shortly. As far as outgoings are concerned, coming to an agreement with Raheem Sterling so he can leave for good was the biggest positive. Amen. He was one of the highest paid players of over 300k a week, of course. He's not been part of the first team for a long, long time, and the contract had a year and a half and loads of money to pay it off. Yes, we all agree that was a big win, I must say. Facundo Buonanotte's season-long loan from Brighton and Hove Albion being cancelled made sense for the player. He was brought over as cover while Cole Palmer was coping with his injury issues, yet made only 8 appearances, and of course now he's gone to Leeds. Be interesting to see how he gets on there. Tariq George, of course, has a great chance to prove himself on loan at Everton. Yeah, I think that's a good move for him personally, while Jack Grealish is out. Outcast Disasi, he was frozen out like Sterling, until he was allowed to train with the first team, unlike Sterling. At least gets a chance to play senior football again. He's on loan at West Ham. Yep, indeed. I mean, that's a pretty gnarly situation at the moment. So how much did they spend? How much did they bring in? Not much in either category, although Chelsea made a profit by Sterling off the books. They feel they've made some major savings, of course. Loan fees got a little bit extra as well. Academy talent Castledine and Atto Ampa. Healthy sell-on clauses also. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Of course, in terms of signings, let's hop on that. There was only one significant addition in the end, and that was the decision to recall centre-back Mamadou Sarr from Strasbourg's loan. The 20-year-old will compete for a first-team spot from the get-go, so unlike Jeremy Jacquet, he's available now. He's highly rated at the club and significantly is also admired by new coach Rosenior. Of course, he had him at 18 months at Strasbourg. Chelsea see him as a similar profile to Dean Howson. Of course, we tried to buy him from Bournemouth. He went to Real Madrid, and we also signed the highly rated left-back Yissa Allo. We beat Man United to that kid. I don't really care too much about that. So were there any deals they wanted to get done and couldn't get over the line? Of course, Chelsea wanted to buy Jacquet from Rennes, but lost out to Liverpool. They were in discussions for most of the month, but the player opted to move to Anfield. The switch will be officially completed in the summer, so a pre-agreement. I like how this is saying he chose Liverpool, and it's not Chelsea briefing, we didn't want him anyway. So at least you can be like, yeah, he's chosen Liverpool. They've just won the Premier League. They're going for a funny spot. But also, he probably sees the amount of young defenders Chelsea have got on the books. And he's like, I've got more of a chance to be one of Slots or Xabi Alonso, whoever's coaching them, one of their go-to guys. Chelsea believe a major factor in Xhake's decision could have been the competition. Well, there you go. I've literally just said that. He faced from other young centre-backs of the club. This includes Joshua Chiampong, who we do not want to sell, and the aforementioned Mamadou Sarr. There's no regrets they missed out on Xhake because their decision to keep Chiampong and Sarr is part of their plans. Oh, there's your briefing part. The club did make an inquiry over Juventus for a loan for Douglas Luiz, who spent half the campaign at Forest, with Dario Asugo being ruled out until March. Yikes. Having not played all the season, and Lavia being sidelined since November. Where is Lavia? What the hell is going on? They thought about adding more depth to the midfield. In the end, they sided against it, partly because Lavia is close to a first-team return. Oh, there you go. My question has been answered. In the form of Andre Santos. Yeah, he's a great young player. After pulling out, Luiz, of course, went to Villa instead. Interessant. Are there still obvious gaps? As explained, Chelsea desire a centre-half, regardless of the addition of Sarr. Probably because, I don't know, you can imagine... Disasi will go, of course, not that he was involved, but you can imagine maybe a Tosin goes. Who knows? Maybe even a Badiashile. A midfielder and attacker should not be forgotten, but Giovanni Kenda is also coming in the summer, so presumably no loan. I mean, would you be surprised if Kenda goes to Strasbourg? I would not be surprised. Of course, a decision will be made on whether Mike Penders on loan at Strasbourg will increase competition in that position. I mean, it would increase competition. Mike Penders does not deserve to be a number 2 at Chelsea. He needs to be like Courtois. He comes in when he's ready to replace Sanchez. And Sanchez has been pretty good. Do they have the squad to achieve their goals for this season? Chelsea started the season aiming to qualify for the Champions League via a top 5 finish and compete in the 3 cups they're in. The club have been able to challenge on all 4 fronts until this week. So little is going to change that. Will Rosenior be happy? He made the point of saying how happy he is with the squad that he inherited from Maresca. Chelsea's new head coach has revealed how often he's speaking to the recruitment team about their plans, so he's fully up to speed on what he's thinking. Being reunited with Sarr is another major plus point. Of course, he loves him. He said he thinks he could be world class. After winning 6 of his opening 7 games, Rosenior will be more pleased with the start he's made. Yeah, he's only lost 2 games, and they were both against that Arsenal team, and we, like I said earlier in the video, we had issues, didn't we? So will Chelsea have money to spend? Yes, Chelsea became the first Premier League club to make over £300 million, Great British pounds, in sales last summer, and they will have more assets to sell in the next window to help further fund purchases. This is probably why we haven't ran for a front of shirt sponsor just yet. The fact is they're prepared to do business during January is a strong indication where they stand financially. Do not forget we got 84 million for winning the Club World Cup and 80 million quid by progressing to the last 16 of the Champions League, with the possibility of more money to come. Right, well, there you have it. There's your updates. I'll end the video now because it's been a long one, but do let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below on YouTube. Please do start up the conversation. As always, I'm grateful for you liking this video, subscribing, hitting the bell, hopping over to Spotify, giving me a follow and 5-star when you search Football Therapy Podcast, which you can do on other podcast platforms. And if you want short form media, Football Therapy Clips on Instagram and the TikTok that the kids love. I'm reliably informed. Alright, mate. See you soon. Peace.